Welcome to our podcast where we look for opportunities in our lives to see a beautiful view. I'm Paul.
And I'm Candy. Thank you for joining us today.
If you like what we're doing here, we want to invite you to join us at the Beautiful View Patreon channel. We really appreciate your support.
When you join our Patreon, we will send you a Beautiful View sticker. We'll give you a shout out on the show. And every Monday morning, you'll receive a weekly newsletter with insider information and encouragement for your week.
Memberships are only $5 a month. You can find the link in our show notes.
We are so excited to share with you again today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the beautiful view.
We could climb a mighty mountain, float on down a winding river, travel back in time and face our future too. Oh, I'm not scared of where I'm going, 'cause I know whose hands I'm holding. Oh, I'd go anywhere as long as you're going to. Well, I'd go anywhere as long as I'm with you.
We hope everyone had a very happy Thanksgiving, and now we can say Merry Christmas. Can you believe it's December already?
I know. Holy cow. It's mind-blowing, really, but here we are.
Well, today our episode is called Simply Christmas.
It is. Christmas is such a wonderful time of year, but it can get stressful in a hurry. In this episode, we are going to share some of our family's simplified traditions, tips on budgeting for the big day, and how to keep your sanity this time of year.
Christmas has really evolved for us over the years, hasn't it?
Oh my goodness, it has. I am excited to share some of the things that have really worked for us over the years to do just that, to simplify and make things more manageable and less stressful. Okay. Let's start out by giving a little personal history of how we started out celebrating Christmas with our kids when they were little and we were in full-time ministry.
Yes, of course, Christmas and Easter are the busiest times of year for church staff, especially in large churches like we were in. I worked alongside a large group of volunteers and my work colleagues to put together a major production for each of these events, which could last anything from 4 to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. We all put a lot of time in on top of our regular work activities during the week, and we had volunteers who were joining us, so they could only spare evenings and weekends. So what that meant for me was I was working around the clock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was when that couch in your office was really handy.
Came in very handy, yep.
Yeah, but it meant a lot of times that we didn't see you for days on end because you were late getting home and early to leave. And so, and you know, that was really difficult. But I know that there are other families that deal with similar things around the holidays. I just had another friend of mine post today. Her husband works for UPS. So, you know, those guys are really busy around the holidays. And so I know that there are other families that deal with similar situations like that. But
of course,
what it meant for us was that the kids and I just kind of carried on. We made our little traditions. We baked cookies. We, you know, watched Christmas movies and you know, we were talking the other night about how we can remember it was a late night one night. You were working well into the early morning hours. And the kids and I piled up in our bed in the bedroom and we just put on Christmas movies and we would just watch one after another, after another, after another. And, you know, those are some of my favorite, like, memories of when they were little, but unfortunately none of those memories really include Daddy in the picture.
Yeah, and it was kind of sad because like you would want to talk about what a great day you'd had with the kids, but it was like that just emphasized what I was missing.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of just like, it was hard to hear that, and you did your best to try and keep that from me. So it just created a very unnatural sort of tension. It created tension.
And, you know, the kids often referred to you as Scrooge. And, I mean, you were a little Scroogey, to be honest, but it was, you know, it was understandable. Like, Christmas just it meant something different to you than it did to the rest of us. So
yeah, there was some massive expectations that I was trying to meet in my work And so I was trying to meet those expectations. And while I was doing that, there was no way I could even meet the smallest expectation of our family. It put me in a very difficult position.
Yeah, it did. I know.
By the time Christmas Day arrived, I was completely exhausted. I'd probably gotten about 3 or 4 hours sleep every single night for, goodness, probably
since Thanksgiving.
Between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And so it was I was relieved, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
I was still, like, my head was buzzing with everything that had happened during those services, those 3-4 services we had on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, that was the lead up. Everything was the lead up to the Christmas Eve
services. So I was going through everything that had happened, some of the things that didn't go off as planned, which most of the time no one noticed. Just trying to figure out what was next. We had usually even, like, just right after the last Christmas Eve service, we usually had a team that came to the church to help us break down the set so that we could be ready for the New Year's sermon series, so that we could at least get ahead a little bit. So, I mean, I was completely spent. I would come into Christmas Day and I would have had my first decent night's sleep and just at the point of crashing. And you guys had this big build-up to Christmas Day where you were all excited, obviously. And so I was just trying my very best to not be... the best that I could achieve was a neutral position.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and all you kept saying was that you just couldn't wait for Boxing Day. And I mean, in America, we don't even celebrate Boxing Day. So I didn't even know what that was in the early days. So would you like to explain to us what Boxing Day is?
So it originates in England, and Boxing Day is like a bank holiday. So it's a continuation of the Christmas holiday season. So in England, obviously Christmas Day, much the same as the way that we celebrate it here. So all the usual Christmas Day things. On Boxing Day, it originated back when alms boxes for the poor were put out in local churches.
Okay.
And so it'd be a day where you would go to your church and you would put money in the alms box for the poor. It was also a day when employers would box up gifts, and that could include food, it could include cash gifts, and they would give them to their employees or tradespeople that were suppliers for them, particularly for those large families who had people working for them during Christmas Day to, like, help them with their Christmas Day. The following day would be a day off for the people that made Christmas Day happen there. And so they would get those gifts. So that dates back to the 1700s.
Okay.
And so in modern times, Boxing Day was just a day where you would crash for the day.
Which is what you were looking forward to.
Was what I was
crash day.
No expectations. Food has already been prepared the day before, so you're eating leftovers. And so you could enjoy your gifts, and there's just nothing on the schedule. So that was what was so appealing about Boxing Day. A big day full of nothing was just my ideal day.
Fair enough.
At that point.
Okay. So, but let's fast forward to Christmas of 2015.
Okay.
So the Christmas of 2015 was our first Christmas as full-time RVers.
Yes, it was.
We had lived full-time in our RV for about 6 months at that point.
Yep.
And that Christmas was just the sweetest, simplest, most beautiful and intentional Christmas we had ever had.
Yep, it was.
Our decorations were so simple. We had a 2-foot Christmas tree on a small table next to the couch in the RV.
Yep.
We hung our stockings on the RV wall with command hooks.
Yes, we did.
We had our Christmas sock. It's kind of a Advent countdown. We have 24 socks on a string or a ribbon.
And they're all different, right?
They are all, well, they're pairs, but the pairs are separated. So they're staggered. Yeah. So, but we use that as a Christmas countdown. And each day, the kids get a little treat in the sock of the day. We went ahead and we did that. That was one of the traditions that carried over from our house because the kids just loved it.
Yep.
And we also made the kids' bunk room extra special by covering the ceiling in sparkling Christmas lights.
Yes, we did.
And then Emily had a lot of fun. She made a whole bunch of snowflakes out of paper, construction paper, and all different kinds of things to hang from their ceiling, too. Mm-hmm. It was just so sweet.
It was sweet.
So what do you remember about those first Christmases that you had no responsibilities other than just to spend precious time with our family?
Well, it was precious time, but it was time that I didn't know what I was supposed to do in.
Yeah.
So I just wasn't sure of my place, having missed it for all those years.
Yeah, I guess we had gone and created all these traditions and you just weren't sure where you kind of fit into that picture.
So it wasn't just Christmas Day, it was the lead up to each one of those Christmases thereafter, because we were together obviously for the whole season.
Yeah.
And so, Christmas Day, obviously I knew what was expected and I could take part more in the cooking and preparing the Christmas dinner. But as far as the lead up to that and what traditions you had built up with the kids, I kind of had to find my place in that. Mm-hmm. But I guess you didn't really know what to expect of me either.
I didn't know where to put you either. You want to decorate cookies?
Well, cooking was always something that I could throw myself into.
Sure.
Because cooking is one of those things that once I get into it, it is very relaxing. Mm-hmm. And so that was something I could immediately get involved in. I think we figured it out.
Yeah, I know that we've had a lot of really amazing Christmas seasons since those very first ones where we celebrated in the RV as a family for the whole season. Mm-hmm. But I think that very first Christmas that we celebrated in the RV where you were with us for the whole time, and I know that you probably don't remember a whole lot about that specific one because you were still kind of in a healing phase, but I really treasure that year as a huge turning point for, in the life of our family.
Yes, for sure. So, like most good men, I'm just along for the ride most of the time. But you obviously had a plan in mind for how you wanted our Christmas season to go when we actually got to spend the entire Christmas season together. So what did you expect about our Christmas time?
Well, you always have like this kind of like romanticized vision in your head of like how you expect something to go. So I wasn't overly kind of romantical about it because I knew where you were at. But at the same time, I was just really ready for our lead up to Christmas to be simpler and way more intentional. Mm-hmm. So I wanted our family to focus on the real reason for the season.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong. I love the lights, decorations, music, and all of that as much as anyone. But I really wanted to celebrate something we had never done before, the season of Advent. And I know that sounds absolutely crazy to some people, but we didn't really come from a denomination that focused on Advent.
Right.
Or not, they didn't call it that. Yeah. And if you're not familiar, the Advent season is literally a 4-week season dedicated to anticipating the arrival or advent of Jesus. And Christians from many backgrounds celebrate this time with reflections on hope, peace, love, and joy. I loved the idea of how it would prepare our hearts for Christmas. So I found this really beautiful family Advent devotional that we went through together, and it was just the sweetest time.
Yeah, and I was looking for spiritual content that was real, that didn't require lights, a stage set.
Yeah. We were looking for simplicity.
Simplicity. I was looking for an expression of the season that was definitely about the origins, but that wasn't about a church production. And so that really fit in as well. And actually, Advent has become more popular in the denomination that we have come from now. Two of the churches that I have friends at, they're both doing Advent series this
it has.
Christmas.
I've noticed that it has become more popular with some of the denominations that had kind of sidelined it or avoided it for so long because of its origins or whatever.
Yeah, if you think something's old and gone, just wait for about another 10, 15 years, it'll come back again.
It cycles back around.
Right. We also started reading the book of Luke as a family each evening, and since it has 24 chapters, we got to read one chapter each night of December. And that way we got to read the entire story of Jesus leading up to Christmas.
Yes, and you know what? When we were homeschooling that year for the very first time, the kids were home.
Yeah.
We didn't have 99 things pulling us in different directions.
Right.
We spent a lot of time doing all the things that I always dreamed of doing and never had the time for. We spent days baking and decorating cookies to give to family and friends and neighbors. We did Christmas crafts and educational projects. We painted rocks or seashells, depending on where we were, and hid them at our campgrounds to make someone else's day. We put together blessing bags one year to hand out to people in need. It was just so nice.
And since we lived in an RV with like 400 square feet, we no longer had room for a ton of gifts. So we had to rethink that as well.
We did. That was the year we started the 4-gift rule. And if you're not familiar with that, each person got something they want, something they need, something to wear, and something to read. That really simplified things so much and made our gifts much more special and intentional.
We also love to do experience gifts, seeing as we were traveling, that kind of fit in really well. One year, instead of gifts, we did a trip to San Antonio, Texas, and went to see the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah, that was so cool. And San Antonio was so beautiful at Christmas. It also meant we weren't adding a bunch of weight to the RV. So, but most years, Christmas time is also a good time to kind of clean out drawers and closets and all the things that the kids had outgrown over the year and stuff, and offload all of that at Grandma's house for all of the cousins and stuff to go through when they were there. So things usually kind of balanced out.
We love the 4-gift rule so much that we still do it even though we're back in a house.
Yes, it's an awesome way to keep our budget in check as well. I set a budget for each person's 4 gifts and a small budget for stocking stuffers for each person, and that's it. We don't impulse buy or go over the top because that isn't the most important part of our Christmas celebrations.
Yeah, we end up with things that we actually use, which is great.
That's huge, yeah.
Yeah, the most important part of our Christmas is focusing our hearts on Jesus and spending time together.
I'll be honest, the spending time together is a lot harder these days as the kids get older.
Yes, it is.
We've jumped back into bricks and sticks schedules.
Now, both kids are in school. Emily's in college, Tyler's in high school, and they both have jobs. And you have a side job too.
Yep.
So it's rare that we have a day when everyone is at home at the same time.
Yeah, we are officially back in the rat race. Why did we do that to ourselves?
I don't know, Candy. You tell me.
Are you ready to hit the road again?
Yes, I am.
No, seriously. It can still be done. We just have to be so much more intentional about everything.
Sometimes that's easier said than done. I recognize the importance of having a plan, and I actually enjoy having a plan so long as I don't have to come up with it. But I tend to like being spontaneous within the limits of our plan. That feels a little safer.
Yeah.
So how are we going to be more intentional about everything this year?
Well, Funny enough, I really enjoy having a plan too, and I am a pretty good planner. So
You are.
what we are going to do this year is we have a master dry erase calendar on our refrigerator that is color-coded for each person. And we use this all the time anyway. It's not just for Christmas,
Right.
It's definitely going to help with Christmas. And that's how we stay organized with everyone's schedules.
Yeah, they're magnetic, so you can pull them easily off the refrigerator door and sit down there and work them out. And that's so helpful for me. Now I know when it's safe to be spontaneous.
Yes, that is correct.
Uh-huh.
We are probably going to have to let go of a couple of things this year simply because there just is not enough time. But there are a few things that we definitely want to hang on to. Number one, our family Advent devotional. That is really special, even if we aren't able to do it together every single evening. Number two, a cookie baking and decorating day. We've got to get that on the calendar.
Yes,
That's really important.
Yes, because I need a cookie eating day.
Yeah, and we have to make them for Santa.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And number three, the kids and I at least, love to pile up on the couch for Christmas movies every chance we get.
Now, I like a good movie.
Uh-huh.
And I was explaining to you the other day that when I was a kid, part of the traditions for Christmas time in the UK was that generally on broadcast TV, they premiered at least 2 or 3 movies that had not been on TV before.
Okay.
So it was like something that only been in the theater. And so you could get to see it on broadcast TV for the first time.
Right.
And so that was something that I used to look forward to a lot. And, you'd always like grab a hold of the TV schedule, like the
TV guide.
The TV guide, which in England was called TV Times and Radio Times.
Okay.
And you would quickly like want to get see the front cover, get inside it to find out exactly what movies were going to be new, and we go in there and we'd circle them and like we'd get excited about it.
So you do like Christmas movies?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that they were all Christmas
they weren't
movies.
Christmas movies.
They were
Fine.
They were movies at Christmas time.
Yeah, you sometimes you do sit with us when we're watching Christmas movies. You just don't all the time watch the movie with us.
Hey, I managed to stay awake for an entire children's animated movie just the other day.
You did,
well, at least until about the last 30 minutes. Enough to know what the story was.
Hopeless. Okay, so let's get back on track here.
Yes.
So basically, it's impossible to do everything that's offered in December, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, there's just too much.
Yes.
We have to remember that it's okay to say no sometimes. We have to be really conscious of our priorities, the things that matter the most, and we have to focus our attention on those things.
And Tyler is playing basketball this year, and that's just been a big adjustment for all of us. The time commitment.
It's huge.
The additions to the schedule, the getting up at 5 a.m. to take him into early practice, and all the things. There's more things to plan around. There's games to attend that we still haven't quite gotten into yet.
Right.
But that's going to be fun. And all of it's good. But that is just an example of how we have to reprioritize this season.
Yeah, we are really excited for Tyler and know that he's having such a great time with all the new things that he's trying out this year. It's honestly been a lot of fun to witness.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So what is the key to keeping our sanity this time of the year?
Well, I would say that the biggest key is to stay organized.
Yep.
And honestly, our color-coded fridge calendar is crucial to that.
It is.
We'll share the link to that, to what we use on our social media accounts. But we keep an up-to-date monthly calendar and a more detailed weekly calendar with all the important dates and times. And there's also kind of another neat piece of that particular kit that you can use for meal planning or for a grocery list.
Yep, and Sunday afternoons are typically when you update all of these things.
Yeah, and you know the saying, a Sunday well spent brings a week of content. So, yeah, Sunday afternoons are when I pull out all of our work schedules, the basketball schedule, and anything else that's thrown in and just compile it all on that calendar.
Yep, these calendars have been so helpful, and they're helpful for keeping me on track because I know what's happening without having to ask you a million questions all week long.
Yeah, that's true. Another key to keeping your sanity this time of year is having a plan for gifts. Regardless of what your budget for gifts is, it is so important to take the time to sit down, write down each person's name, and set a per-person budget at the very least. I've even done the envelope system to make sure that I stick to it. Or if you are an online shopper, write things down as you purchase to keep track of how much you are spending and on what for whom. I've found a couple of printables that have been very helpful with this over the years. I will share the links to them on our Facebook page.
That's a really great tip. You usually just tell me my shopping budget, and that makes it easier for me too. It takes some of the guesswork out, and it makes your expectations of me very clear, and I do appreciate that.
Okay, good.
And it also prevents us from sort of like trying to outdo each other with our budget. So do you have any other sanity keeping tips?
I do, actually.
I thought you might.
I like to pick 2 or 3 events during the season that I really want to experience or participate in. Because let's face it, we've said it before, you can't do everything. Mm-hmm. That's when it gets really stressful, when you try to fit in every last thing. So my tip is pick 2 or 3 events that don't conflict with each other and add them to your master calendar. Know your limits. When things start feeling stressful, it might be time to step back from a thing or two.
So, what are some examples of events that we're going to try and do this year?
Well, I found a really cool event for this first week in December, which will be about the time this episode is released.
Yep.
So basically, it's a live nativity. But also it's bigger than that. It's like an immersive experience into the bustling streets of Bethlehem, all surrounding the birth of Jesus. I think it's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, it will be cool.
So we've got some friends that are going to join us, and I can't wait. So
Yep.
Emily and I also are going to go make a pretty wreath with great friends at an event on the 16th. So that's on the calendar. And I would also like to do something special on Christmas Eve. I'm just not sure what yet.
Okay, maybe something with friends or like a candlelight service or something?
Yeah, something like that. I want to get the kids' input first, but for this year, that's about all the big things that we're aiming for.
Well, I think that's realistic with everything else on our calendar.
I think so too. And honestly, those things don't feel overwhelming. It's going to be a fun month.
So what you're saying is don't try and do everything. Mm-hmm. Have a plan for what you are going to do and what you are not going to do. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that will allow me some time to do some of the more spontaneous things too.
Exactly.
Christmas is such a fun time of year if we don't go overboard with it and if we stay focused on the things that are most important. I know other families do things differently and plans can be a lot more complicated. It's so important to make room in our Christmas celebrations to relax and enjoy both the season and each other.
That truly is the key. Take time to enjoy the decorations that you spent so much time putting up. Plan a family evening of eating snacks, watching Christmas movies, and drinking hot chocolate by the light of the Christmas tree.
Hot chocolate.
Have a plan. Manage your expectations. Let go of things that are beyond your control. Set some boundaries so you don't overcommit yourself. Set and stick to your budget. And soak up every moment with the ones you love.
Regardless of how your family celebrates this season, whether you keep it low-key and simple, or you just go all out on everything, remember in all of the hustle and bustle to take the time to love on your family and friends, bless a stranger, and focus your energies and efforts on the things that really matter. Those are the things you will remember for years to come.
I love that. You know, there's a scripture that I always think of this time of year, especially as a mom. In Luke 2, Mary has given birth to baby Jesus. The angels appeared to the shepherds in the fields nearby. The shepherds hurried to Bethlehem to find Mary, Joseph, and baby Jesus lying in a manger. The shepherds then told everyone about the events of the evening. All who heard the shepherd's story were astonished. And in verse 19 it says, "But Mary kept all of these things in her heart and thought about them often." Can you imagine how full Mary's heart must have been in those moments? That's how I feel this time of year, as I treasure all the little moments, both past and present, with my kids that are growing up way too quickly. These moments become the things I treasure the most.
So take a deep breath. Pull out your calendar. Come up with a holiday game plan. Don't set your expectations unrealistically high. And take time for things that really matter this Christmas.
Keep it simple, meaningful, and manageable. And may it simply be the most beautiful Christmas yet.
Yes. Thank you for listening today. If you know of someone who would enjoy this podcast, please point them in our direction. Visit us at the Beautiful View Podcast on Facebook or Instagram, share one of our posts, or share the link to our podcast. Our next episode is going to be very special.
I'm so excited.
In fact, we are calling it The Beautiful View of Christmas.
Yes. So our hope and prayer is that this episode will bless your heart and that you will share it with your family and friends before you open your presents or eat your Christmas meal together. Our kids are even going to be joining us for this one. You are not going to want to miss it.
Thank you to our friends Tyler and Kelsey for providing the music for our podcast. You can check out The Hopeful Few on Spotify or Apple Music. The links are in our show notes.
If you have questions you would like us to answer or suggestions for things you would like us to talk about in our future podcasts, please just email us at beautifulviewpod@gmail.com.
Yes, we love to hear from you. And just a reminder, please consider joining the Beautiful View Patreon. This helps us keep these episodes coming and cover our costs. Again, the link is in our show notes and it's also on our social media accounts.
We hope you have a great day, and remember to always keep an eye open for opportunities in life to see a beautiful view.
We could climb a mighty mountain, float on down a winding river, travel back in time and face our future too. I'm not scared of where I'm going, 'cause I know whose hands I'm holding. Oh, I'd go anywhere as long as you're going too. And I'd go anywhere as long as I'm with you. Yeah, I'd go